Welcome to Occam's Razor. Today's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, all you mothers out there. Today, we're just going to go through a quick little review of small dead animals. This is one of my other favorite sites. They have some really good links. And let's go through these Mother's Day stories. So, for all you mothers out there who voted for liberals, I'd like to remind you that this is a quote from Mark J. Carney's book. You mothers out there who voted for Mark J. Carney, this is what we have in store for Canada. Western society is morally rotten, and it has been corrupted by capitalism. That's Mark Carney. That's from his book. This requires rigid controls of personal freedoms, industry, and corporate funding. I remember a little guy with a funny mustache from Germany in the 1930s talking exactly like this. This is not a promise to make the lives of ordinary people better, but temporarily worse. Temporarily worse. This will be a world of severely constrained choices, less flying, less meat, more inconvenience, and temporarily more poverty. All you mothers out there who voted for this guy, this is what you voted for. That's right. Why are we having this? Well, we knew we were going to have a lousy economy anyway, because of uncontrolled spending by the liberals. But now that you've heard this quote from his book, you mothers out there on Mother's Day who voted for liberals, you liberal mothers, that's what you're in for. Now, Goldstein here says Carney, like Trudeau, thinks big deficits are the answer to tough times. Well, as you know, this Liberal government so far has increased the debt by more than all other prior governments combined. In fact, as you know, the monthly interest payment is more than what we collect in the GST every month as well. In fact, those monthly interest payments would buy a new hospital every month, what we're paying. But guess what? Instead of tightening our belts and uniform foxtrotting all those bad decisions the Liberals have made over the years, increasing the debt, no, what do the Liberals have in store? I'll tell you what they have in store. Carney's campaign platform, released on April 19, calls for $130 billion in new spending over the next 4 years. Yeah, so we're not going to tighten the belts. You mothers out there have hired somebody who is going to rack up the credit cards even more. And then when he's done, you're going to be a homeless mother because Canada won't be fiscally viable anymore. We've already gone down from AAA to AA plus, and even that is at risk, according to Fitch, in our credit rating. So this will dramatically increase the federal deficits that have been projected by the previous Trudeau government in its fall economic statement in last December. Thanks, mothers, for voting Liberal. Mothers. Now, if you thought things are going to get better in Ontario, as you know, Ford's been making some noise. Oh, we're going to get the mines started now. No. The freeloaders who profit, who get all their money from the taxes raised on what little industry still exists in Canada, they don't want more industry. Oh, no, they want the free money coming, but they don't want it coming from, exploiting the resources on their land. Meanwhile, the COVID vaccine arms race is ongoing. And let's just go through a reminder of what's been going on lately. Apparently, there was a study. That says when you get the jibby jab in your arm, it's best if you get both jibby jabs in the same spot. Apparently, that makes it all better. Makes the jibby jab work even better. But let's remind everyone what are the successes of the jibby jab. So remember, all you mothers out there who voted to get the Liberals back in, you voted for more jibby jabs. In fact, you voted for the fact that we will never get any justice for all the jibby jab issues that have popped up, because they don't want to talk about those issues, like myocarditis going up 510% after your second dose. Or how about acute disseminated encephalomyelitis up 278% after your first dose. Or how about cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, up 223% after your first dose? How about Guillain-Barré syndrome, 149% up after your first dose? Does that make you feel good as a mother when you decided to send your child or, you know, try to coerce your other family members into getting the jibby jab, to keep their job maybe, right? All right, but you didn't care. You didn't care that all these people lost their jobs or have been unalived or have been permanently injured from the jibby jab. No, no, that didn't phase you at all. You mothers out there who revoted the liberals back in. Yeah. How about heart attacks? Up 286%. Did you uh did you give the liberals success again, knowing that after your second dose, your heart attack percentage goes up to 186% if you had the jibby jab? Or how about stroke? Up 240% after your first dose. Yeah, the liberals did that to us, right? When they coerced everybody to take it. Remember, they said, "You will not get on a train or a plane in this country." No, that's right. Made us all second-class citizens for not stroke. 240% after your first dose. 240% up after your first dose. How about coronary artery disease? Up 244% after your second dose. Wow. Imagine if you knew that and you were going to do the jibby jab anyway, right? Just to save everyone else. Got to save grandma. Got to get the jibby jab. It's like cardiac arrhythmia. Cardiac arrhythmia up 199% after your first dose. And regarding the central nervous system, Alzheimer's up 22.5%, cognitive impairment up 137.7%. And these are problems that have been reported. We don't know how many doses, right? But these are the stats. The stats are up in these areas. Ischemic stroke up 44%. Hemorrhagic stroke up 50%. Transient transient ischemic attack up 67%. Myelitis up 165%. Myasthenia gravis 71%. The depression is up 68.3%. Of course, that might not be jibby jab related. It could just be the fact that all you mothers out there have decided to vote for more misery for Canada. How about depression up 68.3%? How about anxiety disorders up 43.9%? How about sleep disorders? You mothers out there getting good sleep? Apparently your sleep disorders are up 93.4%. Now, as you know, the UK is self-imploding. Mark Carney just left there as their bank governor, and economically, they're toast, right? As you saw, they're going to spend us into oblivion, just like they did there. They said, "No, no problem. Just keep printing money. It'll all be fine." Yeah, no, but they have other problems too. They have an uncontrolled mass immigration issue as well. They won't stop illegals from coming in. And just like here in Canada, they pay them to live on the dole and don't want them to integrate. Now, as a result, they have so many people calling for Sharia type laws. And as you can see, they're giving in. In fact, there's a bit of a story here. Charges brought up against Hamit Kuskan for burning a Quran outside the Turkish consulate. But you know what? They had to change. They had to change what they charged him with initially, because initially he was charged for harassing Islam, and apparently the courts realized that Islam is not a person. You can't bring those kind of charges against him. So they had to change the charges for offending religious values or something or other. But this is what's going on. And apparently they arrested a boatload of farmers and farmers for these new tax laws that they wanted to bring in to basically just steal the farm out from the farmers. It's like they did in Soviet Russia. Only here, of course, the legislation is slower. They're not doing it right off the bat. They're not just showing up with Russian soldiers and shooting kulaks and kicking them off or whatever. No, they're just doing it slow and piecemeal. And of course, everyone They decided to do a protest. They kept the shelves empty of closing down markets. You know, it's not going to be a good year in the UK. And us all ties back. It started. Some of it started under Carney, but this is what happens when you have far left policies. But Canada, we're heading down the same path here. You see what's been happening in Toronto. U.S. plans to receive and aid white South Africans granted refugee status as soon as next week. Right, I don't know how many times I was called a racist for pointing out the fact that the whites are fleeing South Africa. Well, I had that story, and we called it. We called it years ago, when they wanted to get rid of apartheid, and there was a reason why they were keeping the votes away. Now, wasn't right, but it was a bad situation all around. But the problem is the leading party, the ANC, are communists. And communists only have one thing in play is that they need utter and total control at any cost, and lives don't matter to achieve that. So the ANC has been running South Africa into the ground, and they've been going after the whites. Let's see what they have to say.
Is one of the latest countries President Donald Trump has targeted since taking office. Last week, the White House issued an executive order completely cutting off financial assistance to the country. CBS News foreign correspondent Deborah Patta has the latest on this from Johannesburg.
President Trump's decision to cut off aid to South Africa and offer white Afrikaans farmers asylum is based on what many in this country say is a false narrative. The reality is far removed from Trump's executive order, which followed a post on social media by the president stating that South Africa was treating certain classes of people very badly and expropriating land without compensation. Afrikaans writer Piet Krokam told CBS News that white South Africans have benefited more from democracy than any other group in this country. If you're white, he says, this is still the land of milk and honey. One of the largest agricultural organizations in the country has also publicly stated that no land has been expropriated in South Africa without compensation in the 31 years since the country's first all-race election. South African legislation allows the government to expropriate unused land for public use for fair compensation, which has raised criticism among some opposition parties. And the group most affected by the withdrawal of US funds will be the 8 million people living with HIV in South Africa. Trump's order stops hundreds of millions of dollars a year that the US gives to help with the country's HIV/AIDS response. Back to you.
Deborah Patta in Johannesburg, thanks.
Well,
I have to get compliments with how great.
as you can see, they're not happy that they're not getting free money from the US again. Why hasn't South Africa been able to raise enough money for themselves? Why are they still receiving aid after all these years? South Africa, weren't they doing well enough before um, they gave the vote to everybody? And then as soon as the ANC took over, the country went to the toilet and now needs aid. And this thing about the white farmers being treated properly, there's plenty of stories out there. If you want to look and find them, probably be difficult in Google because they will just try to hide those in the algorithms. But the stories are out there of South African farmers being attacked by the locals, being unalived. So it's quite easy for the government to come in and then just take the land after the family's been chased off it or have been removed by being unalived. They've been facing harassment. None of that was in the story. None of it was in the story, the amount of white South African farmers that have been unalived on purpose by the locals. No, let's not talk about that. Okay. It's always the messaging by mainstream media. Remember, they have a narrative, and it's not a narrative for you, especially you mothers, on Mother's Day. So, Instapundit here. Jaguar hunting for new advertising agency. Well, remember this? Remember this? Well, I have no idea what mother would want to drive a car made by Jaguar after this. In fact, if you watch the entire commercial, you wouldn't even know it has anything to do with Jaguar until you've seen this little. Of course, there was a little bug that you can't see in the other corner that shows Jaguar. But Nigeria, Korea-based discrimination against Christians. So, plenty of these stories always linked here from small dead animals, but it's demonstrates what happens when you bring in people from a certain culture in your nation and they get to a certain percentage and then they start calling for these cultural values they have in their countries of origin, like Sharia-based discrimination against Christians. We know that here in Canada, the Liberals are getting ready to remove the charity status from churches or any other religious group that are not pro unaliving babies. So if any church is pro-life, you're probably going to lose your charity status because to the liberals, the far left liberals, ideology is the only important thing. And if you don't follow the ideology, they will punish you. They will censor you. They will take away your rights. And eventually they will probably put you in jail. And I say this because that is exactly what was in Bill C-63 before it died in the last parliament. And the liberals want to bring the same bill back. Sharia-based discrimination in Nigeria. Wait till you mothers see the discrimination that's coming to Canada. And this is what happens when you replace your population, right? Most popular boy's name in 3 German states is now Mohammed. How did that happen? Why is it not Hans? Franz? Nice German names? I think Germany, you've gone and unalived yourself in the long run. In fact, most of Europe has done that through mass immigration of incompatible cultures. And here at the very end, we go back to bad Mother's Day. So, a reminder, thanks for coming out. If you managed to stay to the end, I really appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. I had a wonderful surprise with a video that was posted on Friday. Uh, my buddy over at BCF put it on his site, and the views went through the roof. I especially appreciate all you subscribers out there, and all you bad mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day. See you later. Bye.